The following program is brought to you with limited commercial interruption.
Today's broadcast is being simulcast in broken English.
I'm here to show the world. I'm here to show the world.
Welcome to the show that we're doing right now.
What the hell are we doing on this show?
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Let's go.
What is this?
Giggity, 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 goo.
Who else but
The Q?
it's showtime!
Gentlemen, let's get down to business.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Yeah, I can dig it, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Q. You're listening to the best pop culture, current events, current affairs show east or west of that Mississippi River, hailing from the great city of St. Louis and worldwide at theqnow.com. I am your host, Mark Bland. Today, we are joined by Jason Kull and Drew Pinson. They're here to discuss the stupidity of hurricanes in 2022 with you. January 6th committee hearings that would out Roger Stone were scrapped this past week for Hurricane Ian, so we will talk a little bit about that. And as October starts, Biden is forgetting the alive versus the dead, and the USA is telling Americans in Russia to get the hell out of there. Welcome to this week's episode of The Q. First up, Jason Kull. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Drew Pinson, welcome back.
It's good to be here.
It's the first time you've been to the new radio studio, correct?
It's clean.
Is it clean? Do you like it? Do you like what you see?
It's bright and shiny.
Does it make you happy?
Very happy.
It makes you very happy on the inside or the outside?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Oh,
Yeah.
Both?
Yeah.
Oh, you got it like that. He's one of those guys, Jay.
He likes it.
He likes that. Yeah, he's into it. All right. Well, we had a big giveaway that we did this past week with STL Youth Sports Outreach and our boy over there, Billy Mayhall. We were giving away a family 4-pack of Renaissance Festival tickets, and the big winner was Jason Husky, however you say that. Congratulations to Jason. He is going to take him and his family over to the Renaissance Fair, courtesy of 1280 AM KYRO. By the way, you're listening to us on 105.3, 1280 AM KYRO News Radio, KYRO.com, every single Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Unless there's a college football game of some sort, then we on right as soon as it's over with, which is not a big deal. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and you guys can join in if you like. So many years ago, when I was earlier in my career, in the first 10 years of my career, I was doing big things. Making waves, guys. I was doing radio stuff. I was doing TV stuff. I was in and out. I was making the moves, right? Trying to get to the top of that mountain of success that everybody else so gallantly is willing to throw away at the studio, literally across the hall, like verbally on people and making fun of them. I was never that person. And so I had opportunities that were beset of me, and there were news articles written about me and people that interviewed me for different things. And one of the things that was always fun for me was the fact that the Riverfront Times does their different things each time of the year, right? The best of this, or they do like a trivia contest or whatever at the end of the year with a bunch of answers of local people, or they do this other thing, whatever it is. They've got different things they do. You know, sometimes it's a foodie event or whatever. Like they got different things that they do. And then they put out an article like one of their magazines. They'll put it out and they'll focus on whatever their event was. And we know that the best of St. Louis is one of their big things, right? They're big things the Riverfront Time like to do.
It's one of the times I read it.
One of the few times the local people read or go out of their way to read it is because they do the best of St. Louis. And they do arts and entertainment. They do food. They do everything. Rock bands, correct?
Yeah, local musicians.
Local musicians, all kinds of people like that. Right?
Absolutely.
And so I thought, since I was in their good graces and things were going well back in the day, that, you know, we would just continue to move on with life. And as new cool things I was getting involved into showed up, that the Riverfront Times would want to talk to me or discuss things with me. But they put me as one of their, listen, this is how popular I got. I was a trivia answer. I was a literal answer to a trivia question at the end of the year in like 07, 08, 06, somewhere in there, somewhere in that range. I was literally the answer to one of their trivia questions because of how much I was getting out there and things were going well and everybody was doing their thing, right? Well, now I see the newest, latest, greatest version of the Best of St. Louis. Now, mind you, I'm going to go down this road because I feel like I deserve to. I've been busting my butt here on the Q now for 12 straight years, okay? And by the way, when I was that trivia answer on that question, it was before the Q even existed. So this is before the Q was even a thing. I've now been busting my butt on this show for 12 straight years, working with Jason, working with Drew, working with all kinds of different talented people from this station, from other stations. Like, we've done a lot of great things. And I'm never nominated. I'm never given. I have yet to win a Best of St. Louis radio award for Best Radio Program. Now, the one that won this year is a specialized show over on KDHX, which does like jazz and blues and ragtime and stuff, which is fine. Like, I'm not knocking that show at all. Like, they probably are totally deserving of the award, and I have nothing against them. They're fine.
It's not that guy's fault.
It's not that guy's fault by any means whatsoever. But, guys, would you not agree that I feel that we put on a solid show? The kind of show that garners attention?
You know what? You can go back in some of these shows, and you can on theqnow.com, and find things that we basically not predicted, but talked about that have went down the way we talked about it.
Correct.
Like with whether it's Trump, the January 6th stuff, the hearings, who we thought would be indicted, things like that. You can go back and find it. We said it.
Right, correct. And Drew knows that just as much as Jason knows that. We've done a lot on this show. There are things Drew said that you can go back now on theqnow.com, TheQNOW.com, and find things Drew said about certain situations, and now they're true. 6 months later, 5 months later, whatever it is, these things are true. So, like, we're not just over here bloviating, but at the same point, I'm kind of disappointed in the Riverfront Times. This is why I brought this up. I'm disappointed because do the diligence, right? Yeah. Due diligence, is that what we're always talking about, right? Due diligence, complying with police, and due diligence of making sure you know what you're talking about. It feels like maybe over at the Riverfront Times, there's a lot of waving of the hands and screaming, declassified. It's all declassified now because I waved my hands, I thought it, and said it. So that just means it's declassified, Drew.
You know what? I don't want to veer off topic.
Go ahead.
That's insane that a former president of the United States gave an interview where he said that. He said that in public.
He said that to a person that was asking him a question, and he answered truthfully as he felt with an answer that was, I just say things and it just applies.
To another human being. He said, sometimes you just think about it.
Sometimes you just think about it.
What?
Let me ask you, Drew. Have you declassified anything recently? Did you walk through your house recently and just declassify a couple of things?
I declassified a nice young lady the other day.
Get up on that mic. That mic is not going to hurt you, boy. Get up on that mic. Get up on that.
I declassified a nice young lady the other day. It was fun.
That's defiled, sir. That's defiled. Not declassified, defiled. You defiled a young woman, and she has no idea what happened.
I tell you what, if thinking about things makes it true, then I have, banged a lot of hot chicks.
You've done a lot of...
When I was younger, there were many a porn star that... Guess what I did?
Hey, visualize it.
Because
visualize it.
All you gotta do is think about it.
Make it happen.
Yeah,
did you just declassified?
That's what it was.
Perception is reality. Yeah. I now perceive you banging these porn stars.
Right?
Totally happen.
Okay.
Looking at you, Christy Canyon.
That's right. That's
went
right.
Down.
So to get back and finish our main point here, I'm disappointed in the Riverfront Times. I would love for someone from the Riverfront Times, any writer who would love to just come sit in on a show, I'd love to interview you. I'd love to sit down and talk with you. I'd like to find out a little bit about your career. I'd like to find out a little bit about your magazine and the people around you, because that's what the Q is. We're here to bring people together. It's always been a show designed we have fights and arguments, Jay. We've talked about this before on this show, but we are a show that tries to bring people together. We don't get on here and bloviate about how we're angry about 2 years later that now. Don't get us wrong, when Donald Trump was president and 2 years into his presidency, he was still president. We're a political talk show. Obviously, we talked about Donald Trump.
Yes.
Duh. It's a political talk show.
They happen to be
if I was a music show or some other type of show, it wouldn't be expected that I talk about Donald Trump. It's weird that 2 years after a dude left office, when he lost an election, that these people still think and complain and cry about the fact that he deserves to still be president of the United States. By the way, I saw a piece of information. Let me see if it's in my packet here. But I saw a piece of information where they basically said that I think like if you break it down, like right after the 2021 inauguration, there was like 23 to 24 million people that thought that Donald Trump should be reinstated by some form of violence or some form of like force, okay? Ever since January 6th happened, they now say that number is down to like 17 million.
Can you imagine?
Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's dropped like 6, 7, 8, 9 million people have dropped off of this idea, but there's still that many people around that are actually, I don't have it in front of me. I must not have thrown it in. There are that many people around right now, guys, that actually still believe that Donald Trump, by force, by physical violence and force, so you could practice your defense with your one arm and the other arm, like we were doing outside. We were doing some karate outside. Drew was showing me some jiu-jitsu, karate.
It's called
martial arts.
It's not weird. It's called rituals, and we all got them. Pre-game rituals.
Pre-game rituals. And so
we like to hit each other.
I've got one.
Basically, you wouldn't be able to do that. Like you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to like take things on. Which, by the way, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later. This Russia thing is slowly starting to unravel in the worst way possible. And guys, I'm
terminally ill, crazy man.
Listen, we talked about this a little bit on the last couple of shows, Jay, and you were here. You know this, okay? This situation with Putin has been put together like a cluster F, like hardcore, like one of the worst cluster Fs a leader that I've ever seen. Like, think about it. I'm 46 years old. Jay, you're wherever you're
49.
at. 49. And Drew, you're much younger than us. But like my entire life, I've watched other countries with kings and queens and militaries and prime ministers and people of power make moves, make decisions on behalf of their country while in conflict with another country. And at no point in all of those years, had any of those countries failed miserably or weren't able to come to some diplomatic resolution with the other country. However it was, the people that were in leadership at the time did not fail the people of their country and did not fail in the situation that they were dealing in. But with this Russia situation, it's gotten deep, guys. All right, like you said, you have a man who's probably sick.
It sounds like it.
In some form or fashion. He is backed against the wall. We talked about that on the last show. He ordered up the millions of draftees, the 300,000, potentially up to 1 million is what we ended up finding out, but 300,000 draftees. And so now people are being conscripted. They're basically just being, you could be two Americans. You and Drew could be just walking down the street, Jay, in Russia. They'll just come up and grab you, take you, throw a gun in your hand.
Yeah.
No training at all. No training at all. And they will just take you to the front line and say, do your business.
So crazy.
And it's like, Drew, you're a young man under the age of 30 years old. You've grown up in this world over the last 27 years, whatever.
Yeah, he's almost grown up his whole, in fact, like his above elementary school age with Vladimir Putin.
Right. You've grown up as a young man who grew up in the world of technology as we see it now. The cell phones, the TV shows, YouTube, social media. This is a very normal part of your life when you were in middle school and high school, right? Correct?
Yeah.
And so, like, would you say, like, if the United States came and said, hey, Drew, would you fight on our behalf? I feel like me, you, Jay, we would all fight on behalf of our country. Like, we are patriots. Like, that's where we stand. Now, if they came out of the complete woodwork on a situation where they went to go take out some African nation. Let's just use that as an example, right? Let's use an extreme here. Take out some African nation. And their argument was because they're black or because they're people of color. That's why we want to take them out. The United States wants to take over this country because of this reason right here. Then they come and knock on your door and they say, hey, Drew, let's go kill us these people. How would you respond? Be honest.
Nah.
No, right. And why would you say no? Be honest. Why would you say no? Is it because of the reasoning? Is it because literally you're like, that doesn't sound like a good enough reason? Like, is it the reason of why they're going, these people? Or is it the idea of going to war over whatever this is over here? Too shallow, stupid.
No, I mean, forget the fact that I don't agree with it on an ideology standpoint. That's not worth killing for. That's not worth dying for. And
you would just be like, no.
Really, I would be like, no. One of the last things actually in recent memory that came about within the world where it was like, okay, yeah, if my country called upon me to go over there, I would totally go, was Ukraine.
Okay. That's fair.
I was like, yeah, I will absolutely go and help those people.
Sure.
That's a noble cause. That's worth killing and dying for.
And that's fair, as long as it's a situation where, like, you understand going into it why you're getting involved in the situation, not just being drugged against your will into some war or some battle that has no value.
This isn't over, like, ethnic cleansing. This isn't over oil. This is over people's
grabbing land,
rights.
just grabbing land.
Recapturing glory.
Right.
I can think of 17 million people, based on our last conversation, who might go to Africa.
Exactly. Well, but my point being is this is literally what's happening in Russia. A guy has just decided to go do this over here. Now, he doesn't have enough military troops, so if a real war broke out with the U.S. and China, Russia is completely screwed. And on top of it, now he's got to drag, hoping to get up to 300,000 regular dudes like Drew sitting at his house, talking to some girl on social media, then the knock on the door, and it's like, hey, let's go fight over this oil real quick and, like, put your life in line. By the way, here's a gun, no training, now go kill.
Right now, over the past couple days, and even right now, there have been tens and thousands of men just leaving their family, leaving whatever they have left behind to go to the neighboring countries so that they're safe from this draft. Like the images that you see of just cars for miles and miles just trying to get into, like, Romania,
other countries,
Kazakhstan. Yeah, they're just like, nope, I'm out. I'm not, because you know why? Because this is not worth killing and dying for.
We're going to get shot by some Ukrainian dude.
Yeah.
All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break here on The Q. When we come back, more with myself, Drew, as well as Jason. We'll be back on The Q after this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Q. Mark Bland on 1280 AM News Radio, KYRO.com every single Saturday. Drew Pinson joining me here, and Jason is missing right now, Drew.
What?
He's gone.
Where'd he go?
He went to go get candy, I think. He's a candy monster.
Do you think he's going to bring us candy?
I don't know. Jay's back now. Jay?
Hello.
Do you have said candy, sir?
Oh, I have one.
You have a
Halloween
candy?
Size.
You have a candy?
Yeah, I have one.
A1 candy for us to split.
It is now October, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the haunted season. That's right. It is now time.
I had planned on opening it earlier and already have eaten it, but...
Eaten?
You ate it?
Say something?
You ate it?
Is that a word? Did you make a word up?
No, but I had planned on eating it earlier, but I couldn't get the package open.
That's interesting. Yeah. All right. Welcome back to The Q. We're just hanging out and talking a little bit. I did find that story here. So let me read it for all of you guys real quick, just because I have this off the top of my head. More than 18 months after the rioting at the U.S. Capitol by a pro-Trump mob, an estimated 13 million U.S. adults, 13 million, so it was 10 million that they lost, or 5% of the adult population agree that force would be justified to restore the former president Donald Trump to the White House, and an estimated 15 million Americans believe force would be justified to prevent Trump from being prosecuted. Should he be indicted for mishandling classified documents, according to a new study from the University of Chicago. We have not just a political threat to our democracy, we have a violent threat to our democracy, Dr. Robert Pape said, the director of University of Chicago's Chicago Project on Security and Threats. He told Face the Nation this past weekend. Moderator Margaret Brennan was the interviewer. Today, there are millions of individuals who just don't think the election was stolen in 2020. They support violence to restore Donald Trump to the White House. The 13 million estimated in the early September survey represents a reduction since June of 2021, when an estimated 23 million Americans had insurrectionist sentiment. The C Post researchers extrapolated data from over 3,000 nationally representative survey participants who responded to surveys in June and September of 2021 and April and September of 2022 to reach their conclusions in the study. So they hit back the same exact people on the second round that they did on the first round, and they said, hey, where do you stand now? And 10 million dropped off their list. Right. The extrapolated out, the equivalent of 10 million people dropped off that list.
So there is hope.
I guess, well, I think that this goes back to my original argument right after January 6th, possibly even the day of or right around there, because I know we were recording at that time. I basically said, hey, guys, this has killed all the moderates off. Like, whatever moderates existed for Donald Trump's potential argument that the election was stolen or rigged or this or that or whatever like that. The minute that they attacked the Capitol, I said, those guys are gone.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that those guys make up 10 million of the people. It's possible, right? Because they're only doing extrapolated data on behalf of people who believed in that side of the world, in that side of things, right? So you got a lot of moderates that are like fence post sitters that are more liberal in their style. That's me. I dropped off well before that. I dropped off before he even became president in 2016. So
nobody who ever had sentiment for January 6th was ever anything close to a moderate.
Well, yeah,
like,
no. Anyone who was there that day.
But just watching Donald Trump get disenfranchised and just.
Oh, I'm sure there were moderates who tried to hold on.
And just crap all over himself. No, there are no moderates who voted for. The moderates don't vote for Donald Trump.
Not now.
I don't think so.
At that time, though, you got to remember, walking into that
moderates are level-headed people.
Walking into that 2016 election, it looked like it was a guaranteed in-the-can win for Hillary Clinton. Everybody thought it. I thought it. I talked about it on the show. Jay talked about it. We all thought Donald Trump was a joke. This was not going to get anywhere. The fact that the night of the election in 2016, that he even represented 60 million votes blew my mind. Like, I literally was even looking at the idea of a breakdown on the television side of how popular his show was versus people that would just be fans of his show that would maybe just vote because they knew of him. And I was only coming up with 20 million or less people. Total.
We definitely miscalculated.
Because, guys, the same people that voted in 2020, went to the same polling places, they counted the same votes, and when those votes were done being counted, Donald Trump was president. And we didn't sit here for 3 years saying Hillary Clinton should be the president. Let's take Donald Trump out by force. Like, nobody said that. It was all her emails. That's all we heard was her emails for freaking 2 years. And then it was done. And nobody stopped Donald Trump from being president. He was impeached twice. That's his own problem. That has nothing to do with me or Drew or Jason or any of you out there in Radio Land listening to us on KYRO.
Yeah. So just back to what I was saying. Nobody who had any sentiment towards January 6th ever is now or was then a moderate. Like, that's just not a thing.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. The January 6th stuff no one saw coming.
He was saying, like, that killed it for the moderates.
That was a definite, like, if you were a moderate who was a fence post sitter prior to January 6th.
Oh, yeah. If there was anybody that was dabbling with the idea of voting for Trump, I'm sure had a very good chance of getting scared away.
Sure. If you were a moderate who voted for Trump in the 2020 election to give him a vote, but you're not, like, dead, like, in his boat with him. Like, you're not fawning over him like his crazy over-the-top cultists are.
They are totally a cult.
You were a fence post sitter who might have been like, I voted for Trump because I just didn't like the other option. Cool, fine. You didn't like Biden. You wanted Trump still. Great. Once January 6th happened, though, Drew, that was done. It was over with. Like, all the moderates were gone at that point. Because there's no moderate who looks at that situation and goes, oh, this makes a lot of sense. I'm really cool with this. Oh, yes. Like, I love this idea.
No, the data does show that the substantial drop-off from people who once considered themselves Trump supporters to, no, not anymore. I'm out, washing my hands of this. Well, the data's there.
We talk about it all the time. How many people have to be lying that you have to believe are lying for Donald Trump to be telling the truth? And it's over 1,000.
Now, I want to keep this show fun for our boy Drew over here because I know that with the ADHD, sometimes he just gets bored. So now I'm going to ask him a question that I feel like this is going to draw him in. This is going to make him smile, okay? Did you lose your smile, Sean? Did you ever lose your smile, Sean?
I lost my smile.
You lost your smile. Okay, well, let's bring your smile back to you. What band? Okay, think of rock bands, music bands, artists, band. What band do we feel had the biggest drop off? Not because they died or what. Like, what band do you feel had a huge following, but over the last 40, 50 years, 60 years, whatever it is, like, could be a solo artist, could be a group, whatever, had the biggest drop off? Like, physical drop off of people that want to see it. And I think I know the answer. Now, I could be wrong, because I'm interested to see you guys' opinion on what I say.
Does it have to be forever or for a big chunk of time?
That's literally what I was just going to ask.
No. I would say, like, what we're talking about is...
Because I have an answer for both.
It could be any band.
I have an answer for chunk of time.
No. Let me preface this properly for you guys. It could be any band ever or artist ever, okay? That's not what I'm worried about. What I'm literally worried about is at one point... I don't care if they were more famous or less than the Beatles or this group or that. I don't care about their fame in relative comparison to another group. All I care is they were this big at this point, but their drop fell so far, like a Donald Trump or like this January 6th. Like, the drop was so far off that they just couldn't catch back up. Like, they were never. And I think I know who the band is, and I think it was a natural progression. I don't think this was a drop off because of a specific event or thing that happened. I think that they just were way, way up here, and now when you go to their concert, sure, they'll pack the pageant out, and yeah, they're going to have a nice lawn over at the Hollywood Casino Theater, Amphitheater, or whatever like that, but it's not the way it used to be. The cars were around the block. You could barely get into the gate. Like, I think that the band for me is Dave Matthews. I feel that the Dave Matthews Band at one point was like every frat kid, every sorority chick, every brother and girl, like every like date, the couple that a date, like if there was a band to go see on a date that didn't really bother two people too much one way or the other, I think Dave Matthews was the easy call. And there is always, like, to get into the Hollywood Casino, it was a nightmare. But I know that now, 25 years have passed? Literally 25 solid years have passed on Dave Matthews.
I wonder when the last
I don't know where he's at. But I don't think that the entire lawn is covered top to bottom the way it used to be. Who do you think is the band or the group? What do you got for us, Drew? He's quiet. It's great for radio because everybody's listening.
Well, I wanted to comment on your comments.
Go ahead. Comment on mine. Go ahead. Hit us with the Dave Matthews comments.
A lot of people don't realize this because you just know, what or would you say? You know that.
Sure.
But Dave Matthews.
Like 35 songs that are popular.
35 songs. Get out of here. Try 3, 2, 5.
Maybe 6.
3, 2, 5.
Like 6
but
or 7.
Dave Matthews.
We'll argue about this
Dave
off
Matthews
the air.
is a jam band for all intents and purposes.
Sure,
they will wail away for like 9, 10, 11 minutes. They're Fish, Dead.
Yeah, no, I get it. But Dave never was like Fish in the fact that Dave was always, I'm a band that puts out albums. I have songs that are 3 to 4 minutes.
They lost their mainstream culture, yes, but still they're like jam band influences, the hippie culture, everybody that still keeps them available to completely sell out Hollywood Casino Amphitheater because that's what they do. Like, they still have their built-in audience that does that, but they lost the mainstream stuff, and that's why you don't know that they're a jam band. And
okay, that's fair.
That's why the general populace.
But do you think that I'm right in my assessment that maybe that they have been one of or the one? I mean, like I said, you guys will have your opinions too. That fell off the biggest, I think. I'm not saying that they've lost their touch or they don't have any talent. What I'm saying is they physically have just fallen off.
I looked them up, and they toured this summer, and they're finishing it up. But just from flipping through, it looks like it's like mid-size amphitheater, an outdoor amphitheater.
Okay, so it's mid-size.
But like to your point, they used to play full-packed arena.
Oh yeah, they did for sure. Like they were one of those bands that could easily go to the Edward Jones Dome, say they're going to sell out 65,000 tickets and do it. They really could. At the top of their game, at the late 90s, early 2000s, they easily could have done that.
All right.
Taylor Swift could do that. Madonna could do that. There's a lot of groups that could do that. I don't think, as much as I like Bruno Mars, I don't think a Bruno Mars could do that right now. I don't think if Bruno Mars came, even if it was him and Anderson .Paak doing the dual thing where he does his stuff as well as the stuff with Anderson .Paak, I don't know if they could sell out the Edward Jones Dome.
They could sell out the Edward Jones Dome.
You think so?
They stay here for 2 nights congruently already. Yeah, I think they could. Taylor Swift does the same thing.
No, Taylor Swift can. That's a completely different story. You're talking mainstream songs,
Bruno
15
Mars
to
is
20
one of-
at all times
Yes.
on every mainstream station, country as well as pop, top 40, all of it. Bruno
Mars is one of the biggest
artists right now.
No, he's been one of the biggest artists for about 10 years now, 10 to 15. Just the Way You Are came out in 2011, my guy. Sorry, 2010.
No, 9.
So there you go.
I know it was 9. Do you know how I know? My daughter was born, and 3 weeks later, she was given a teddy bear playing the song.
There you go. So I am right, 13 years. But he has been one of the biggest pop stars in the world.
You think he could sell out the Edward Jones Dome on his own?
Dude, he was...
Because Taylor can.
Dude,
she doesn't need nothing.
Dude.
I'm asking you.
Super Bowl.
No, he did the Super Bowl.
He did that.
When
Nelly did
when
the
you
Super
are
Bowl.
Super Bowl status, you get to you can go to 65,000 capacity arenas and sell
Stop.
out every single night.
I have to say this. I have to say
Chaffetz
this.
Arena, maybe.
I have to say this. This is very
Chaffetz
important.
Arena holds 12,000 people.
Yeah, he'd sell that.
This is important.
He stays here for 2 nights in Scott Trade Center. Sorry, he stays here for 2 nights when he comes to, and
the
that's
last time he
20,000 people, guy.
All right. Listen, my guy, okay? Drew hasn't experienced my new abilities like this. Okay. All right. So, my guy, listen to me over here for a second.
Yeah,
no,
my guy. What's
my,
up?
my point, my guy, is simply the fact that I don't think Bruno Mars. Now, Bruno Mars has played the Super Bowl, but he wasn't the Super Bowl halftime show. Didn't he come out with some other people? Like he was a part of a. Was it him by himself?
It was him.
The
and
Weeknd did that by himself.
Yeah, and so
Taylor Swift's or Rihanna's getting ready to do it this year coming up. Aerosmith was the main group that they could sell it on when Nelly came out, but Nelly came out as a piece of the Aerosmith show.
I could answer your question for you. Yeah, no, he was the headliner, and Red Hot Chili Peppers came out with their fake instruments for one song.
That's true. They didn't play live.
That's craziness.
No, it's not.
I feel like Red Hot Chili Peppers would be the focal group.
No, it's not. He's one of the biggest pop acts of all time. He's U2 status, bro.
You think that Bruno Mars is U2 status or Aerosmith status?
In the pop world, yeah.
In the world of music, period.
In the world of music,
because
yeah.
the people we're talking about that sell out the Edward Jones Dome, they are the people of music. It don't matter what genre it is. Taylor Swift will literally look any genre of artist in the face and go, I will literally sell that building out. Oh, you're a completely black radio station? You play Spanish music all day? You've got 12 of my songs literally playing on your station right now in Spanish. Well, I'm a white girl.
I'm looking at all the proof I need to right here in my phone.
Let's
right
do it.
now.
Do it. Do you
know what you need to do to have 50 million monthly listeners on Spotify? And that's just Spotify.
Okay,
that's people who don't own iPhones.
Mainstream, but remember, Spotify is, I've got all these mainstream songs that radio, TV, and MTV have been playing for the last 12 years. They're all right here at all times. You know these songs off the top of your head, and even though that's not what's on the radio now, it's the same thing you remember from 10 years ago. So if you want to put it in your playlist and play it again, be our guest. That's different than I'm one of 50 million people. Here's a brand new Bruno Mars song, and 50 million people want that song and it alone.
Yeah, it'd be interesting
no questions
to see the
asked.
breakdown of the songs.
That's a different argument.
The songs that
I know where you were going, and I respect that.
No, it's not. The argument you're making is very far-reaching.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break here on the queue. Put a pin in that. When we come back,
get your ass kicked.
Well, first off, you just said ass live on FCC Radio Airwaves.
Ass.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We'll just turn that off. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Bruno Mars is going to try to prove to me why he deserves to be opening up at the Edward Jones Dome. We'll be back on the queue after this. No. I'm not going to agree with you. Like, welcome back to KYRO. Welcome back to the Q. Mark Bland, Drew, that guy, all that. Okay. Bruno Mars, like, you wanted to argue with me off the air, and I get it, but we're going to talk about this. Stop wasting it off the air. We're going to talk about this on the air, okay? I'm not saying Bruno Mars isn't talented. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve 50 million listeners on Spotify. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to play the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is a self-contained piece of professional football. that a bunch of people are going to watch anyway because of professional football. And if a marching band came out at the middle of it, they would still watch that game. Like the same amount of people would still watch that game because it's not about the entertainment in the middle of it, okay? And I always loved the famous saying, because I agreed with this, that WrestleMania was never designed for professional wrestlers. It was designed for mainstream people who are not big wrestling fans, who know of the sport, and the reason they bring The Rock in or this famous artist like a Muhammad Ali or a Pete Rose or whatever is because they're trying to grab that mainstream audience for one show, make them spend $60 on a pay-per-view, and show up. So I understand the arguments for the Super Bowl, but my argument was Bruno Mars, sell out the Edward Jones Dome. Now, if enough time goes by, yes, sure. I haven't seen Bruno Mars in 6 years, 7 years. COVID hit too, right? I haven't seen him. This guy's going to come with Anderson .Paak. He's going to be there. They're going to take an entire end of that arena, right? An entire end of it. They're probably going to chop 15,000 seats off. Just to backstage, just to put the lighting set, the kit, all that.
That's what they did with the Royal Rumble.
They're going to do that anyway. Taylor Swift does that too. But when you get to the Dixie Chicks, Taylor Swift, and people like that, they don't need the end cut off. They'll literally build it in the center, like a Kevin Hart in the round or a Dane Cook at the top of his game, and then they'll fill all 80,000 seats for that. Now, I'm not saying that Bruno couldn't do that. My question is Bruno Mars popular enough just off of someone says he's coming, straight up, sell out the Edward Jones Dome?
Yes, 2 nights in a row.
Okay.
That's how big he is.
Okay.
He is Taylor Swift, U2, Metallica level big. He is a huge mega stream pop star, probably one of the biggest, probably the biggest of the past 15 years.
No.
If you don't want to catch to the end of Justin Timberlake's career.
No.
Or Justin Bieber.
I will literally look you right in the face and say, The Weeknd has destroyed that man as far as who is the king of pop, king of rock, king of whatever, like mainstream top 40 music. The Weeknd.
Fine.
He's killing.
Fine. He's recently moved into the spot. The Weeknd could come and do the same thing.
No, the Weeknd could sell out 2 nights in a row at the Edward Jones Dome, and I know that, and I would never go, oh, you might be in the same level as a Taylor Swift or this or that. No. He automatically is. Like, the dude is that big.
If you're saying that about Bruno Mars, if you're having that question, then I'm sorry. This current opinion right now is horribly out of touch.
Okay, that's fine. No. You just disagree because you like Bruno Mars. I like Bruno Mars too.
I like Bruno Mars.
I love
I'm
Bruno
sitting
Mars.
here looking at numbers of every band you just listed, and he has 4 songs that are almost at 2 billion.
Jay,
Taylor Swift got none at even 1 billion.
Okay, Jay, could you bring me up a list of the top 15 music artists current, or like, I don't know how to do that. We've done this off the air before. Album sales. I don't know how you want to do it. Like, I want to know who the top. No. Pop. Make it pop because that'll include The Weeknd. It'll include Bruno Mars. It'll include Taylor Swift and everybody.
Exclude, like,
give me the top
that.
15 pop artists. But there's got to be some financial. There's got to be a stat, something that we can hook it on, so that everybody out there listening understands what I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like to be the Metallicas, to be the people of that level. I'm not saying that Bruno Mars can't be on a show with these people of that level. He totally can. And would he put on a better show? Possibly.
Bruno Mars regularly plays for 50, 60,000 people. He's a huge arena pop show.
Based off what we were talking about, I feel like he's more of an amphitheater style artist. Like he's definitely
That's why when he comes
doing
here,
that.
He plays the Dome.
But have you seen him at the Dome? I have not been to the. I don't know if Bruno Mars has played the Dome in St. Louis or not. I have no idea.
I've seen him at Scott Trade Center.
You've seen him at Scott Trade Center, but that's only 20,000 seats.
All I'm telling you is you're holding like Taylor Swift to this high thing. When
I put Taylor Swift with Michael Jackson and Madonna and Elvis.
Yeah, he's
and Elton John. Britney.
Now that could be broken into like 3 subgroups there.
Even
I don't like that group.
I just said Britney, and she's probably the lowest level one of all of them that I just mentioned.
Okay, Bruno Mars is a upper echelon who could come to Edward Jones Dome and sell it out 2 nights in a row, cutting a minimal section of the thing out.
Okay.
That's just how it is.
What do you got?
It's his highest grossing tours of all time. I figure since we're wondering who could come and play the Dome.
Sure, okay, that'll work out because that means people are paying money to come sit in a seat.
And it says the individual tour, like it doesn't mean all time. It just means this tour that this band was on was the highest grossing.
All right, what do you got?
First one's U2, their 360 tour.
Okay, we got U2. We said that they would be up there.
Yeah, second one is Guns N' Roses.
Sure.
The reunion.
But listen, I have a problem with the Guns N' Roses. Like, Guns N' Roses, once again, I feel like they're kind of like they were the biggest group at their time, but it was such a short-lived run.
And they're my pick for a band that dropped off.
That would be a really
period of time.
That's a really good choice.
All right.
Because until the reunion,
you hold on a second. You're off the air. You're off the air for a second. Hold on. You hold on a second. So what else you got?
You know what? Actually, right above U2, they didn't. It wasn't on the list. Ed Sheeran actually has the highest grossing.
Again, Ed Sheeran, I feel not quite Taylor Swift level, on his way, getting there for sure.
Bruno Mars.
But I would say Ed Sheeran's getting up there.
Please
Mars
let me jump in.
He would be equal to Bruno Mars.
Please let me jump
14th.
in right now,
He's
just
14th.
to show Mark how.
But you two have 3
How
tours.
what?
Got it.
How what?
3
So
tours ahead
Ed
of him.
Sheeran, yes, has the highest grossing tour of all time.
Okay.
Period.
That's fine. But it's also
Taylor Swift
today.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I don't know if my numbers are like
Right? Because remember, Guns N' Roses, 1989, when I saw Guns N' Roses, that was a $22 ticket with all the fees included.
Oh, here.
That was it.
Hey, Mark, I need to get through like the next part of this without like, but for just
Wait,
like a second.
Adjusted for inflation, the numbers do change for these guys.
Adjusted for inflation, yeah.
Yeah,
Taylor
dude.
Swift makes the list. She makes the list at 19. That's her highest grossing tour. Is the 19th highest grossing tour.
Are you
of all
looking at the
time.
same lists?
Yeah,
It might be, yeah.
and here you go. You know who lands on the list right at 14?
Who's
Bruno
at 14?
Mars.
Right,
Yeah.
because you're talking about album or grossing Gates in 2022, 2019, 2018. We're talking literally 30% to 40% higher ticket prices today
Oh, you know
than
what?
back then. But I want ticket sales. I want full number of ticket sales.
They have it broken
That
down for
will
ticket
literally
sales.
tell you per person, per butt and seat, how many people literally came to see this person.
Oh, I have
now
that for
that
you, too.
number is going to tell you who is the most popular.
I have
Period.
that for you too.
And we don't have to adjust it for inflation, or butt or any of that stuff. We don't have to do anything.
Almost 3.3 million.
Came to see who?
Bruno Mars.
Bruno Mars.
But on the same number, U2 was almost 9 million.
Yeah,
So.
and Taylor Swift was 2.8. So there's Bruno Mars beating your girl 3 times.
So wait. She had 2.8 million people come to her show.
On one individual.
On one individual tour. Bruno Mars had how many?
3.2.
3.2, and then 9 million for YouTube, you said?
Yeah, they had like almost 8.
When's the last time YouTube did a tour?
This one.
Like, see, that's what's blowing my...
Ed Sheeran still beats him in attendance with 8.7 million for his tour. He's
8.7 million. That's huge. That's what I'm saying. Like, but see, I know that I could find a Taylor Swift tour where she put 8.7 million.
Ed
up.
Sheeran's also shaving half of that in Europe, I'm sure.
You think he's shaving half in Europe?
This tour was 2009 to 11.
Stacking. You said shaving. That's why I was confused.
Anyway, so yeah, Bruno Mars, bigger pop star than Taylor Swift.
Hey, you know what?
Well,
let me turn your mic off for a second because I want to ask you a question and then I'll turn it back on so you can answer. Go ahead, Jim.
Real quick on this Ed Sheeran, that was in 255 shows. U2's was in 110.
U2's a megastar.
Okay,
That's what I mean.
That's what I'm saying. You have 100 less shows and you put up twice the numbers. Okay, now hold on.
Bruno Mars was 204 shows.
Now let me ask you a question, Drew. I've turned your mic off. I will turn it back on the minute I'm done asking the question. All of this is great. But who is your band for the biggest fall off? Because that's where this all started, bro.
Oh.
Like, who fell off the biggest in your opinion?
Limp Bizkit.
You think Limp Bizkit?
I think they had 2 or 3 smash albums, and then 2001 happened, and
Give me those attendance number on a Limp Bizkit tour from 99, 2000. Because they were one of
And then
the...
do it 10 years later.
They would have been legitimately... Limp Bizkit would have been as popular as Bruno Mars at the top of their game in 1999, 2000. For sure. Let me see those gated attendance numbers because... I don't know. It was a different time period, though, Drew. The way the radio worked, the way that we imbued music, the way all that worked, like certain things, like R&B was slowly starting to hit the mainstream more often by the late 90s.
Pop mainstream superstar versus new metal niche group.
You got to realize also, Bruno Mars comes out in 1995. I'm telling you right now, you're going to lose 60% of your numbers you're talking about.
Well, it's not what was...
Do you know why?
Why?
Because in the mid-90s, R&B music stayed on R&B stations. It was played for R&B people, and that's it. They really didn't take, unless you were a Peebo Bryson doing a song for a Disney movie with some white woman, they would take you then and put you on mainstream radio and give your R&B side of things a chance in the mainstream. By the time Bruno Mars comes out, we've gotten past all that BS. A guy like him could put out an R&B hit, and it could end up on Z107.
Here you go.
It could be on Sirius, on their Hits 1. Like, it just didn't matter by that time. So keep going. I'm listening.
No, that's it.
Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, Limp Bizkit disappeared in 2001, tried to come back in like 2009 or 10 with a comeback album.
You think it was the biggest fall off, though?
Yeah,
like,
it was.
Legitimately?
When you completely stop making music and then you come back to do something that's 1/15 of the former album you just released in sales and profit, you fall off.
What if they were to go on tour today?
Oh, yeah.
Where do you think they'd play?
Yeah,
they've had a resurgence.
Do you think that they could tour? Do you think they could do the amphitheater? I mean, anybody could do the amphitheater. I'm asking, and put a decent crowd out there. I'm not talking about just do the amphitheater.
Yeah, Limp Bizkit could.
Or do you think they're more of a pageant place?
No, they're the amphitheater.
I feel like Limp Bizkit's a pageant thing now. I feel like that they've fallen off enough to where they could be pageant.
If they didn't,
you're going to get the resurgent people that'll come through. But
they
beyond
didn't
that,
disappear for so long. This tour for them is like a reunion thing.
They're a novelty and a classic now. You know they don't play the new stuff. They only play the old stuff.
Yeah.
Did you see that crowd they played for Lollapalooza? That was gangbusters for him. Mark will be like,
Sure,
that was a one-off thing, though. Like, dude, that's what he was about to say, and that's why he's not talking anymore.
That was a huge crowd. I mean, but they're not going to play it. They're not going to play it.
Drew, is Lollapalooza a one-day thing or two-day thing?
Lollapalooza is something that either proves that you're exactly where you aspired to be from your career, or you're going in the right direction. It's a staple, much like the Super Bowl. You get to play the Super Bowl when you were the biggest thing 20 years ago.
I can sell a Lollapalooza on 5 other names, and you'll still play in front of a crowd just as big as they will. It's because they're waiting for them to show up.
Fair enough, but you're not realizing how big that performance was. You and I watched it.
We watched it together.
Home.
Yeah, we did.
We watched it live.
It was fun.
And so did millions of
other people. It wasn't live.
On Hulu.
We were watching it. We watched it a few days later.
We watched it the next day,
Yeah.
Because I chose to watch it instead of like Doja Cat or some crap.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like right now, Doja Cat, she could go and sell out the Scott Trade Center all day long. Doja Cat by herself.
Yeah.
But she could not sell out the Edward Jones Dome.
No, she couldn't.
It's not going to happen. And she's got like 3 songs that everybody knows the words to. It ain't going to matter now. Like, it's the way we ingest music now, right,
well,
Jay?
Kids ingest music now in a different way. The kids don't know.
Yeah, I'm saying we ingest it differently now.
Kids, they know the Doja Cat song, but they don't know that Doja Cat sings it. They don't know who sings what now.
You don't think so?
No, they're not.
I think that they're more on top of it now than we were back in the 90s.
No, they hear it.
Because everything was word of mouth back then and now.
I've been teaching students music for like 10 years, and they don't know who sings what. They're not stealing music off the internet and like reading the files and stuff, so they're not like seeing it. It's not making.
But they're on
imprint.
YouTube. That's where they're getting most of their.
They're watching
ingesting.
influencers, but they're hearing the songs on TikTok. That's how the songs are getting big now. They're hearing them in the background.
Yeah, but don't you just click the button at the bottom and it takes you right to Doja Cat?
I mean, you can. But you're busy scrolling. I'm not busy clicking buttons. I'm busy going next 6-second video. Next 6-second video.
What is your?
I literally do not know who Doja Cat is.
It's okay. It's fine, Jay. Because I'm gonna move on real quick.
Imagine Selena with like a 1/6 of the talent.
Okay, exactly. Like way a 1/6 of the talent. But, she's got some catchy stuff. Here's the deal.
I do know.
You're on TikTok. You said you're scrolling. 6 seconds, 7 seconds, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking to the mic. It's not going to hurt you. What is your favorite thing to view when you're on TikTok?
I don't have it.
Like, do you have a specific, or when you scroll, like maybe even if it's on like clips on YouTube or whatever?
I do
like,
the
what
Facebook
is your
Watch or the YouTube Reels.
Sure. Okay. What's your favorite stuff to watch? Like, what do you like to see in that? Because everyone's algorithm's different. Everybody kind of has their own thing. And because you're on social media so much growing up, like the algorithm is super tailored to guys like me and you who've been doing it for a long time. So what does it show you? What do you like to watch?
I get a lot of like idiots in cars over on the other side of the world. Like like 3 or 4 minute videos of just dash cam footage of people being ridiculous in a vehicle.
That's what your favorite is. That your favorite thing to watch?
That's something that seems to pop up a lot lately. Now that I
are those the rabbit holes?
I haven't been watching wrestling.
That's fair. That's fair. What about you, Jay? Do you ever get onto your social media, like the reels or whatever, the videos, and just kind of flip through them and watch them slowly?
I get a few of them.
What do you get into?
I find myself rooting for like the snakes and other animals in those
Snakes?
reels with the guys that are holding the venomous cobra up to their face and be like, it's a, whatever the name of the cobra is.
Okay, I don't get these videos, but I want those videos.
You're out. Well, you
see,
guys
that's why I'm asking this question, because I want those videos.
Mine are always
that's
some
great.
sort of. I mean, there's good.
You got to let
people
him
that do that. But
you got to let him browse your phone and stuff so that Google picks up the algorithm.
I guess we're gonna have to do that. All right, we're gonna take a quick break here on the Q. When we come back, more with myself, Drew, and Jason. We'll be back on 1280 AM right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Q. Mark Bland, Drew Pinson, and our boy Jason Kull. A little Bruno Mars to bring us back, a little Uptown Funk. Now I got your mics on. There you go. Nice.
I know this song.
You do know this song.
Dude.
Everybody knows this song.
Yeah, right?
Gotta.
Very popular, right?
I've taught
you.
it to,
you feel that you could sell this out, right? We could sell this out.
I've taught this song to easily 10 people in my life.
10 people?
Yeah, as well. When I'm a music teacher, I have
10
young kids,
full people?
I have young kids, old kids, and a lot of those young kids, they want to hear this song. They want to learn how to play it.
Do you do a lot of music teaching currently, sir?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah, I'm a private music instructor.
How many people are you currently? Give yourself a little plug. What's the name of your entity?
Oh, you can catch me at drewpinsonmusic@outlook.com if you want to inquire about some guitar lessons. I've been teaching for 10 years. I've been a student for 20.
Don't be afraid. Talk to that microphone. Let it know. I keep telling you that.
Give me money and learn to play guitar.
Just give you money and learn to play guitar. That's all you want. You were saying off the air that we were talking about the Bruno Mars stuff on the air. We got into a little bit of a discussion off the air, and you were saying that he was sued over that song, over the Uptown Funk?
I need to look that up. That's what I remember. I remember it may have gotten dismissed. It may have been nothing.
Okay,
because anyone can sue anyone.
I don't remember that specifically myself.
If I could give you, if you knew how many songs have litigation attached to them, most songs that crack the Billboard Top 100, most have a litigation point at some point over writer credits or infringement or something like that. There's a few artists that have never been taken to court.
Okay. All right. Guys, I got a story I want to throw in here. The White House is got a staggering defense. Did you guys see this situation with Biden this past week?
Oh, right.
Did you guys where
Congresswoman?
All right, yeah, okay. So here's the deal. They basically, the White House says she was clearly on top of his mind. It's the White House's staggering defense of the blundering Biden, who's 79 years old, after he called up to the stage dead Republican Representative Jackie Walorski and says it was not all that unusual and Americans will understand. Now, Biden's press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, repeatedly said the president was only calling out for the late Representative Orlowski because she was at the top of his mind. The briefing room devolved into shouts of confusion as Jean-Pierre refused to say that the president made a mistake amid criticism of his mental fitness. Biden asked the crowd to point out the deceased congresswoman during the remarks on this past Wednesday, even though she had died in a car crash on August 3rd. Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? The president questioned during the White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health. She must not be here, he said, before moving on with his remarks. Biden released a statement on her sudden death at the time, saying he was shocked and saddened and praising her work for the hunger conference. Now, the reason I brought this up was simple, and I definitely want to hear both of your opinions, young and old. I've got to hear this out. If there is one thing that is right, glaring from the conservatives currently at this moment, it's that they are right about Joe is kind of losing a step and he maybe should be a one-and-done term type president, okay? Nothing personal. I understand this. Just you did it. You got it on your resume. Move on. Just put it in your bank or whatever, and let's retire. Let's call it a career. Just enjoy your retirement. That's my thoughts on this. That's kind of where I'm at with Biden now. Do I like Biden? Yes. Drew, do you like Biden?
He's okay.
Jason, do you like Biden?
Yeah, I like Biden.
Okay. So we like the guy okay enough. All right?
okay.
Exactly. Okay enough. Like, we're not going to sit here and say he's the greatest president that ever existed.
I'm not going to put a flag of him on the back of my car and drive around.
Mostly he's just a breath of fresh air from the last administration.
For me, he did what I wanted him to do.
Yeah.
He beat Trump and got rid of him.
That's it. That's all we kind of wanted him to do.
So
and
anything
to be
else
honest,
is great.
To be honest, the things he's done since as president, they're neither high on my list or low on my list. Like, I feel that he's done solidly as a president, no better or worse than a George Bush did.
Well, I know he didn't come into office and blow the Secret Service budget in 1 year.
No. Well, I think that's why it's so easy to jump on something that's so, I want to call it, it's not small potatoes, maybe to them, but I have a father who's 63 years old, and so many of his friends have passed away, and occasionally why don't they answer their phone?
Yeah.
And it's not anything bad.
No,
he's not losing his mind. He just he's at an age where a lot of his friends have left him. And also, as soon as you started telling the story, I remembered every single time I ever accidentally called my teacher Mom. And I know it's not exactly the same thing, but that's what it felt like. Oh, silly mistake.
They should just admit to it and move on. If they did that, this would go away.
And
it was a slip of the brain.
The problem was the last guy. That's the problem. The problem is the last guy ruined it for this guy. Like, he can't make a mistake. He can't slip.
Yeah.
He can't say anything because everything leading into that campaign in 2020 was old Joe Biden who's losing his step. So, that's the story that was kind of thrown out there by the last guy.
Yeah, the last guy tripped over his tongue every day. Every time he
United
spoke.
States.
Yeah, every time
Covfefe.
Trump spoke in public, it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
For the country.
It was. And
every time.
And now the conservative, I get you conservatives. Everything about losing in 2020 just is still under your gird. It's got your gird. I got it. So you're just going to attack everything as, this is another problem, just like you attacked our Trump. And it's like, no, your Trump said covfefe. Like, he literally said a word that does not exist, and now you're trying to sit there and go, see, it's some political ploy. It's like, it's never a political ploy when your guy just did it.
Your guy's under investigation. Our guy just had mush mouth.
Exactly. Right. That's where we're at. But the reason I brought this up is, guys, I'm going to plead. I'm going to beg for our friend Joe Biden. I want there to be a great candidate that pops up on the liberal, Democratic side, independent side, wherever it comes from, that could be a force to be reckoned with and a potential great candidate for president of the United States. I don't have a problem with it being a Republican. As long as it's somebody of some quality merit that gets up there, not a DeSantis or anyone like that, is someone with some quality credit to them, I'll give them a shot, even if they're Republican. I don't mind this. It's this over-the-top cultist stuff that led into where we're at. And now Joe, legitimately almost 80 years old, it's time for him to retire. It really, truthfully is. Like, it's probably time to call it a career. Just end on this presidency. Let this go. Let whoever, it could be Kamala. I don't know who the next person's going to be. Kamala would be a pretty tough one to put up. Woman and black.
Yeah.
That's not even about. It's not about being divisive. Just because she's a woman and black, that divides naturally.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
oh, okay, I see. What
just
you're saying.
being herself. You know, I was gonna say. I just wish Gavin Newsom would have never have had that party at the restaurant during COVID when there were lockdowns and all that, because he is a very strong presidential candidate, but that ruined it for him.
Who is this again?
Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom. Yeah,
Gavin Newsom's still who I'm.
He's still. Well, he's.
I think he could overcome it.
Here's my problem with Newsom right now. I like Newsom. I don't mind Newsom. I think Newsom is kind of fake like DeSantis. Like, I've watched Newsom do his press conferences. I've seen him talk as the governor of California. I've watched things happen. And he kind of comes off with a very false or fake attitude. It really is evident. And I get the same thing with DeSantis. The problem with DeSantis is he looks like a bulbous liar. He just, so if this guy's not being authentic in the way he comes off, and this guy's not being authentic the way he comes off, and the other problem I have with Newsom right now is all he's doing is attacking DeSantis constantly. He's always making comments about DeSantis as if him and DeSantis are the guaranteed next in line to argue about who's president of the United States. And it's like, I'm sorry, Newsom, Gavin, there's a lot of people who don't know who you are. If I walked now, I know a red state like Montana or something like that, sure, there's enough people there with their Facebook feeds. They're hearing about Gavin Newsom. Fine, potentially. But there's a lot of places that if I walked into them and I said Gavin Newsom's name, they wouldn't know who he is. Chicago's a good example of this. It's another city that's similar to L.A. in its political makeup. I walk into Chicago and say the name Gavin Newsom. I know for a fact that name will not resonate as much as Ron DeSantis will.
Yeah.
The people of Chicago will know Ron DeSantis' name.
Ron DeSantis lands in the headlines for better or for worse.
Sure.
A lot more. Like Ron DeSantis right now, I give our flowers out when it's time to give out flowers. He is handling the evacuation of his state right now in preparation for Hurricane Ian, which is going to move across the state at like 5 miles an hour.
Thank you for
It's going to destroy Florida. He is handling that with
Thank you for bringing this
a lot
up.
of brains.
I can't believe you people still live that. Like, what are you doing with your lives? How many freaking hurricanes? Now, I get it. There's only so many places to live in the United States, and not every place is a place you want to live. Hey, listen, I don't necessarily absolutely love living in Missouri. I don't hate living in Missouri. I get 4 seasons. It's beautiful, pretty affordable.
And I'm never asked to leave my home.
Yeah, I mean, you're never asked to leave your home. Like, it's kind of like a nice place to raise a family. It really is. It's not a bad place as far as like location goes.
Yeah.
Center of the country, so if anything happens on the coast or they try to attack us, we're pretty protected. Like, it's a pretty solid place to live. Sure, I would rather live some other places. I'd like to have a nice little bungalow on the south side of L.A., down towards Huntington Beach, and south of that, Newport Beach, a nice little condo or somewhere I could hit the waves and go check out the California sunsets at night. I think that would be fun. I don't know how people live in Hawaii either. Like, I'm not just going to knock you, Florida. You're the one dealing with it again. I don't know how many hurricanes have to come through there. I'm sure Hawaii deals with it a lot. Puerto Rico obviously deals with it down there quite a bit. These places, they're beautiful, but is it worth literally losing everything you own in like a 2-minute period once a year simply because you're just like, I got to be here for this weather. I got to be here for this weather.
Well, those detrimental ones are far enough apart. We're only dealing with like the potential of losing your home every couple of years, but still.
Sure. I mean, they're not getting tsunamis down there. They don't get earthquakes. We get earthquakes sometimes up here.
I can understand how it's hard where you live in Puerto Rico, where the cost of living and the average wage is very low, or even in Hawaii, where both of those things are opposite. How it'd be hard to pack up everything onto a boat or an airplane and move to the mainland.
Yeah,
it's the cards you dealt.
Yeah, sure. And I get that, and I respect that. But at the same point, you people in Florida are stupid. You're just stupid. Stop being stupid. Wait, hold on. Jay, hold on. Shh. Everybody, shh. Real quick. Shh. Remember last week, Jay? I'm sorry. Do you remember last week, Jay?
I do.
And we had our boy Jason Spurgeon here, and he was sitting right where you're at.
That's right.
And we were talking on the and I turn off both mics like this. I go shh. And there's a reason I do it, ladies and gentlemen. Shh. Listen to what I'm getting ready to say. Now, last week the big thing that I was teaching everybody was, if you don't want bad things to happen to you, don't do illegal bad things. It was a very straight. Ric Flair, don't do it. Didn't matter who it was. Remember, we brought up lots of names. Just don't do bad things, right? Drew, do you agree? Don't do bad things if you don't want bad things to happen to you.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Now, shh, everybody, shh. Don't continue to make the same mistake over and over again, losing your entire lives for nothing other than another sunny day you could get in another place on the water. That's it. There it is. That's all you got to do. All you got to do is take a little time. Listen, I know that hurricanes hit sometimes, but I rarely hear Virginia's name when it comes time for hurricanes. They do get up that way. They do go up towards. I rarely hear New York's name. It does happen. Yeah. They do get up that way. It's along the water. They have sunny days, right? Hey, how about this? I hear a lot of South Carolina. Don't hear a lot of North Carolina. I really don't hear a lot of North Carolina. Beautiful beaches, Kitty Hawk, all that. Yeah. So you guys could go live in sunny places along the beach where you wouldn't have to literally evacuate every single year over and over and over again. And this is a crazy hurricane. By the way, we could talk about this just for a quick second. This hurricane that happened, this thing was nuts. Did you see how big of a swath of the middle of that state it took over? Like all the way through Orlando over to Tampa on the other side. So it's coming from Miami side across the entire state. And I mean, we're talking what, 30 to 40 miles wide storm?
200.
Oh, 200.
Sorry,
200?
Sorry, I was wrong. 400 miles.
400 miles. Sorry, I was saying 40.
That's a big storm.
400 miles. That's a massive swath of land.
So with this particular one, but at the time of recording, it's going to be like a Category 4 tonight projected. It's going to turn into a Category 4, and it's moving across the state at like 5 miles an hour. So it's going to linger, like Katrina
water.
style.
Yeah.
It's just going to linger.
Category 5s, they say, are extremely rare. And the United States has actually only been hit by one Category 5 or two Category 5s in its entire history.
Yeah, one was like in the 90s or something.
Yeah. I think it was the George or something
Hurricane
like that.
Andrew.
Or Andrew, yeah.
Andrew.
Might have been a 5. Yeah.
Look at me knowing stuff.
Yeah, look at you being all smarter. In fact, that's a great place for us to take a quick break here on The Q. If you guys get a chance, go check out theqnow.com, TheQNOW.com. Old episodes, new episodes, everything in between. By the way, we are sponsored by John Beal Roofing. That's John Beal Roofing. If you have any problems with your roof, weather like a hurricane, right? If we got a Hurricane Andrew or Hurricane Ian coming through, your roof might get torn up. John Beal Roofing is who you want to call. 1-800-JOHN-BEAL. That's 1-800-JOHN-BEAL. We're going to take a quick break here on the Q. We'll be back right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Q. Mark Bland, joined by Drew Pinson, as well as Jason Kull, hanging out. Little Melvin's honey bucket for you. Drew Pinson's personal choice. Thank you, Drew.
Hey, you're very welcome.
Appreciate it. I always like having unique intro music for my different segments. I always think that it makes for just a much better product overall. I really do. I just think that, having unique things like that, because, you get a show like ours that might only have a certain vibe that they present, right? But then you come back with the Melvins and Honey Bucket, right?
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, if I'm a guy who just might be into that style of music, it's not something that's on my peripheral all the time, but I catch the sound. I go, oh, now that's kind of cool. That's kind of different. Like, I don't have that going for me all the time, you know? So I appreciate that.
Do you know what my favorite part of this show is every time I tune in to listen, whether on
Now,
KYRO or on Spotify?
I am interested to hear this because Drew started out as a fan of the show. And by virtue of asking me if he could get opportunities to maybe come on and talk about things, he's worked himself to where he's at. So, yeah, I definitely want to hear that.
So every time the show starts on the radio or if I catch it in podcast form.
Okay.
Shining.
There's everlasting shine blockers.
Your whole intro.
Yeah.
That entire thing is just so fun to listen to.
Well, you know what I love about that intro more than anything? It's old, it's kind of dated, but I love the intro part from what's his name from the WWE?
Oh, Dolph Ziggler.
From the Dolph Ziggler, yeah.
Here to show the world.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's fantastic. It's always something fun to listen to and check out, and people will catch into that. Like, I've had more people when it comes to the intro to our show say that they respect and like the Warriors part. The not to come out to play, but where he's like, "Can you dig it?" Like that part from Warriors. They like that aspect of our intro music more than anything else.
As it comes, gentlemen, let's get down to business.
Yes.
And then that whole groove just kicks in. I'm ready. I'm cleaning my house and I'm listening to the Q.
Fair enough. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's awesome. That's great insight. Like, I love hearing little pieces of information like that. I could read about this Laura Trump situation. We were just talking about the Hurricane Ian. And I guess Laura Trump, which is Eric Trump's wife.
It is.
Yeah, they have a son. And took it out into the middle of the hurricane while it's pouring rain. This poor kid is sitting there screaming and crying like he's angry and unhappy because he's probably scared to death of this monster storm that they're all talking about and the TVs are playing constantly, because if there's one thing that we all learned about Trump and his family, the TV is always on,
right?
And the news is always playing constantly, 100% of the time. She takes him out and makes him drive around in this thing, and this poor kid, and then she's like, it was a learning experience. It's like, no, it's you being a crappy mom. Like, why would you do that? You should be leaving where you're at or not dealing with
your
this.
kid's going to have pneumonia.
It's in the genes.
Right?
Could be.
It's in the genes.
You think it's in the genes?
Being a bad parent, yeah.
Being a bad parent's in the genes?
In the Trump genes, yeah.
Did you have bad parents? Would you say your parents were good, bad? If you were to grade your mom and dad right now,
All right.
scale of 1 to 10,
All right.
right? You can do halves if you want. I don't care.
All right.
Where would you put your mom and dad?
10.
You give them a 10, a legit 10.
Every time, yeah.
Is it because you feel overall they did an amazing job? Do you feel like there's certain aspects that you focused on a little bit more to make that decision? Like, how does it play out?
Yeah, I think they did an overall really good job. They refused to let me turn into like any kind of scoundrel or.
Okay. Now, would that be, Jason, where would you put your mom and dad? Like, if you were to give them a grade.
I'd give them a solid 8. They
give them a solid 8.
They let me get away with way too much.
Okay, that's right. No,
I got away with just the right amount, which is why they got
guess
10.
what? But no. I had to learn this from an older man, and I didn't realize this. And I'm glad that somebody of wisdom taught this to me because it was important. Now that I'm older, I can like impart this wisdom back to all of you out there in radio world. As you get older, there is, what were we talking about again? We're talking about
Rating your parents.
Rating your parents, okay? There is this. Did you ever notice that while you're growing up, your mom and dad are growing up too?
Not until I was older.
They're growing up at the same time. I'm 46 and my son is 10 and my daughter's 13. But we're all growing up at the same time. So who I am right now, this is my life. This is this piece of my life. It's important to me because it's my life, obviously. But to them, I'm dad.
Yeah.
And they're not viewing me in that idea of I'm growing up with them. So there is this value that is intrinsically lost simply by being a parent. That's what I was trying to bring up. This is what the piece of, like, you lose a piece of yourself being a parent. So I think it's important, like, when people like us get together and we go, what kind of grade would you give your mom and dad? What kind of grade would you give your mom and dad? Like, that's important because they probably never thought about that. They were just busy being your parent.
Yeah.
And now the things you do with your kids, I bet your kids don't get away with anywhere near as much as you did.
No, my
because you fixed it in you. Like, you, whatever your parents failed at
school and at friends' houses.
That's what I'm saying. Whatever you failed at, like you feel your parents failed at, like, so what my parents, I would give them a solid 9.5 probably. Like, I'm getting up there, but the one thing that my mother always did was she would tell me she loved me. My dad, and most men are like this.
Now I would give my parents 10s on my brother and sister.
Now, my mom would tell me she loves me, but it wasn't all the time or every month. It wasn't like consistently all the time. My dad rarely. Now, most men fall into this category anyway, so I can't knock him for that. But most men don't show love. They don't talk about it. They don't bring it up. It's not something that they typically do.
I can't imagine. So many times I've heard that story, and I'm like, I don't get it. We said I love you on the way to school, coming back, like, hey, Mom, I'm back from school. Okay, I'll see you when you get home.
There it
love
is.
you. We said it all the time. We were always hugging.
Phone calls.
Now, what grade did I give my mom and dad?
9.
9.5, right? 9 or 9. Let's say 95.
You don't get to go back and retcon a 0.5 in there now just because she's listening.
No. If you go back, you see that I said 9.5. Okay, I'm deducting the 5, but I tell my son I love him all the time. My kids, I tell them I love them like you were just talking about going to school, whatever this. I tell my kids all the time I love them, and the reason I do that is because the man who is part ownership in this radio station group, a guy named Steve Casper, owns a different set of stations that has nothing to do with us. But Steve, one night, drunkenly at a party, sits me down, and he's the one who imparts this piece of information to me, and he goes, tell your kids you love them all the time. All the time. He said, my mom and dad never did it to me. And he asked me if my mom and dad did it. I said, they did it 30% of the time max. He said, tell them you love them all the time. I do it all the time. He goes, it's the biggest, like, I do it all the time now. He goes, I spent many years being too busy at the radio station, never telling them that I love them, never bringing it up, never saying anything. And for the last 10 years, all I do is tell them all the time. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I feel so much better. I love our relationship that I have saying this. So do that. And Drew's the perfect example. I'm deducting 5 points. I'm like you, Jason, like you, I'm changing how I dictate it to my children versus how my parents dictated it to me. But that's where that 0.5 comes in. If my mom and dad said they love me all the time, like Drew says his did.
I mean, my parents didn't.
They're 10s.
Didn't chase me around the house.
No, sure.
Screaming, "I love you!" But every phone call ends in that.
Every phone call, every time anybody leaves the house to go anywhere. All right, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Okay, love you, bye. Love you, bye. That's
just like an ending for every conversation.
That's the ending. Love you, bye.
Yeah, but they never like sat me down and went like, "Do you realize that we love you so much?" Like that would be a little weird.
My mom will do that, but she needs a few glasses in her.
I'd be like, "What are you asking me to do?
Do you realize how much I love being your mom?" Yeah,
Jason,
you told me last time.
Jason, we mentioned earlier that Ron DeSantis, we talked about him with Gavin Newsom, and how and you said he's handling the Hurricane Ian thing as best he can right now.
He is. He's doing a very stand-up job keeping those people safe. And
That's fair. That's fair. But he caught some flack this past week, Drew.
Yes, he did.
He did because he had appointed a commissioner, a county commissioner in Florida, was appointed by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. That gentleman abruptly resigned following the circulation of a photograph showing him wearing a Ku Klux Klan robe and hood.
Yep, you're done. You're done.
Now,
your career's over.
Right. Sorry,
guys, I bring this up.
Thanks for playing.
You're right.
I mean, screw you, but thanks for playing.
Here's what I have a problem with. The problem I have is I don't know if that's that guy. And I know that sounds weird and conspiratorial, but that person in that photograph, as much as I can blow it up and look at it as close as I possibly can, he really resembles facial features, the bulbous cheeks, everything. Ron DeSantis, as a young man, a lot more than this county commissioner that it supposedly is. And I find that really, and it's like, fine, he was going to quit or get fired either way.
The guy in the picture looks more like Ron DeSantis now than the guy does now. Like, if that makes any sense. Like
that's how close in the picture he looks like the facial features of Ron DeSantis.
That guy in the picture growing up and being Ron DeSantis makes way more sense.
It does.
Than that guy growing up and being the guy that
by the way,
it is.
Me and Jason are not saying this because of racism. We're saying physically, he literally looks like that guy more. And the problem with this whole situation, ladies and gentlemen, is this county commissioner is the commissioner of a county that's like the largest black populated county in all of Florida. And he is wearing a Ku Klux Klan robe.
Wow, he seems nice.
Now, I wanted to ask you guys, we're in October now, okay? And I've talked about this on the show before. And we're talking about this person wearing this Ku Klux Klan robe, and the person is obviously at a Halloween party. There are other people dressed up in other costumes in this picture, okay? So I wanted to talk about, I understand the value of racism when it's being used for the sake of racism, okay? But there was a time period in our history, let's go back to the early 90s, the late 80s, the mid 70s, the 60s, like every time before the 2000s, literally, and I'll even take it up to 2009, 2010. The 10s is where things really started to change. The Gen Z and the millennials really started to engage. They were graduating high school and getting jobs and moving into the workforce and becoming part of life, and things changed a lot there. Before them is Gen X and all of us who are a little bit more blasé, right? We'd be willing to, in 1992, wear blackface. Very possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I had friends who wore blackface at Halloween. Not because they were trying to be racist to black people. They were just trying to emulate Eddie Murphy or this person or whoever it was. I had a friend who did it, Mr. T, back in like 85 because the A-Team was popular.
I went as a girl for Halloween, just a girl. In 2003 or 4, I would not do that now. No, I'd be diminishing somebody's struggle.
That's what I wanted to say. Let's talk about that. Is that a BS stance?
Well,
do you think that that's a BS stance? Because I think that's kind of a BS stance. It almost is like the comedy when we were talking about comedians and their ability today. And he's like, no, they can't do as much. I go, yes, they can. All they do is just do it. And either people show up and want to see it or they don't. Why can't I turn that same idea back towards this too, Drew, and go, well, if I want to dress up as a girl, it shouldn't be held against me that I'm trying to be some diminutive monster of any sort.
No, and I don't particularly think it would, but there is the possibility there. They will they'd say a line like my lifestyle choice is not a Halloween costume.
Do we think it's gone too far? Do we think that they're picking on everything now to the point where you can't? And I'm not saying that this guy should be allowed to wear a KKK uniform.
Yeah, no,
I understand what that is, but my point is he's at a Halloween party at a time period where someone dressing up like that could be just looked at as, oh, he's being an idiot who wants to be a Ku Klux Klan member from stupid stuff in the past.
But we've recognized that there was a struggle happening there.
Correct.
And it was wrong for us
100%
to make light of the struggle.
Sure.
Which is what they go. Because you wouldn't go as, I don't know, hey, Jason, could you put together a costume if I asked you to go as a gay man for Halloween? That's just your costume. A gay guy.
Just wear some clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, I could. No, but no.
Yeah. That would be
now,
that would
hold
be the same thought process in a lot of
America. Gay males? We've had this conversation before a little bit. We haven't touched on this specifically, but the stereotype for gay men is they tend to talk a little higher, and there's a little this spin. There's a little that. If I'm doing now, if I do that and I try to do a Chinese person's accent, right? Yep. Like the whole whatever, make the noises and all the facial features and all that. Yeah. Okay, sure. That looks racist and really bad. Does the same hold up for the voice of being the gay man? Like, if I start to talk like this towards Drew and is that being disrespectful to gay people? Because I feel like today they would say, yes, you're being disrespectful to gay people. And I go, but
they might. I don't know.
They all say that voice is not who they are, and it's not indicative of who they are. It's a stereotype that's BS. So now I'm just using some random voice that is not indicative.
Go through 80s.
So I'm
comedies.
curious.
Yeah. So
in the 80s, that's how they portrayed gay people.
You've got 1 minute.
In my experience bartending at a gay bar, which I do currently, most of the patrons there, most of the gay men there, they speak like you or I or Jason speak. They speak normal. Yeah. And there's a fraction of them that have that more feminine quality to the way they speak and talk and walk and dress and all that.
Yeah.
And when they, like when one
hear somebody do that,
when one of the more masculine voiced gays is like telling a story and is emulating one of the more effeminate gays, they'll do the voice.
They'll do the voice. Yeah, that's
like
it.
I was
that's
at the
voice.
bar and he came up to me like, "Hey, you look nice," and I told him to f off. Like,
but
that's kind of
that
the story.
world, in that world, they'd go, "Well, we're both gay, so it's okay. You can do that." It's the whole "we're both black, so you can say that," or "we're both white, so you can think that," or like whatever.
I don't know. I don't think.
I'm just wondering because I feel like we're getting to a point.
Do they speak that way because they're gay becomes the root problem or the root question? Do they speak that way because they're gay? Do they speak that way just because they're effeminate and happen to be gay?
I was just using it as an example in the bigger picture in the story of me talking about the idea of these costumes and the way that people are viewing these things. We got to take a quick break here on the Q. When we come back, we're going to have a lot more fun. In fact, we're going to end this show on a really great note. I think you guys are going to be excited. We'll be back on the show right after this. 1280 AM KYRO. That's right. Mark Bland, Jason Kull, Drew Pinson, hanging out on this Saturday with you. Got a little... Who is this again, Jay?
It's one of the greatest bands ever.
No, it's not.
Never will be on a list of falling.
No. Yeah, they fell. They fell before they even got started. It was pretty bad.
Still play arenas.
God,
yeah. All right.
They suck.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Q. Of course, Mark Bland, as I said, all that cool stuff. We were talking about, I asked these guys, what's their favorite conspiracy theory? Drew, what is your favorite conspiracy theory? It can be anything.
So I can or can't believe it?
You can believe it or not believe it. It's just your favorite one, like that just exists in general.
The one... I will say I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but there is one that I do subscribe to because I believe it could be very easily done.
You think it could be done?
I think that it's not at all beyond the realm of possibility.
Okay, what's that?
AIDS was invented by the government in an effort to eradicate the homosexual community.
Okay. I like that one. Like I said, I asked for everybody's favorite, so it's your own personal choice. So that's Drew's personal choice. I want to hear Jason's, and I'll tell you mine, and then we'll kind of break them down and work with them, okay? So what do you got, Jay?
Well, my favorite one that I believe is that something hinky went down with the JFK assassination.
Something what?
Something...
Like a second shooter? Or
like the FBI was involved? Like what part of the... what conspiracy?
Lee Harvey's just the fall guy?
Either before it, during it, or after it, something nefarious went down, whether it was a cover-up of this or that. because none of it makes any
Do
sense.
you believe the government, before we get to mine, do you believe the government was involved with the JFK assassination in some form or fashion? In a quick Cliff Notes version, I believe that elements before it happened, not after. I'm saying, of course, they got involved after. But
no, I don't think like it was a large government like they all decided they're going to kill the president. I do believe that a small group of people involved in other clandestine type situations around the globe turned it and did it, and after the fact, the government had to shut that down, and they just didn't realize back then that eventually we would get all this information, that Freedom of Information Act would be a thing.
The 75-year thing ended,
They just didn't think the internet would be a thing.
Or they probably just didn't care because it was so many years down the road, they'd be dead anyway.
Sorry, they shortened the 75-year.
Yeah, most of it's out
for
there.
how long everything was going to be locked away in a box.
But they just, they didn't think the world would be like it is today, and now, everything is coming out here and there. And there's just so many weird things that have happened with it. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
My favorite conspiracy theory, if I was to say that there is a favorite conspiracy theory, probably lizard people
That's a good
currently have ongoing relations from a foreign place, from an alien planet or whatever. Excuse me.
I thought the lizard people lived underneath Los Angeles.
No, the lizard people
That's what I always heard.
have a relationship with our government. They talk on a yearly basis, like have a meeting of some sort, like the head of the lizard people that interact with it. This is a legitimate conspiracy that exists in the United States of America that a lot of people actually believe is true. That there are people walking around who are basically shape-shifting humans that are lizards underneath their skin, and that they turn into lizards and they have a conversation with the president of the United States in a very secret place, declassified. and then that's why I'm allowed to talk about this. I declassified this room.
Okay, good. I was hoping you did because I was gonna.
You're getting ready to do it. Yeah, exactly. Good culture. But that's my favorite one. Now, it's loopy. It's stupid. It really has no merit in my world. Like, I don't believe for 1 second any of this goes on. But at the same point with yours, I could foresee a person or two within the government maybe having caught wind of something that they had heard, weren't sure if it was, and they probably after the fact go, oh my God. And it clicks immediately. Oh, that was connected. I knew. Oh, no. Like, I feel like maybe that could have happened.
Yeah.
But I don't know about any involvement or hanky, weird, stupid, dumb stuff happening.
There's just a lot of weird stuff.
Now, yours I want to talk about.
Yes, I do too, actually.
The reason I want to talk about yours is interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like there could be value to what he says. There could be. I don't think that most people, and I don't care if you're Trump or Mark Bland, doesn't matter which person you are. I don't think most people walk around with hate in their heart at all times, looking to take everybody they can down at the knees in the most cruel and unusual ways that they possibly can. So the idea that they would physically go with as many people that have to be involved in a situation, create aids to turn around, because there'd be a lot. There'd be a bunch of scientists. There would be people monitoring the scientists and what's going on with that. There'd be a bunch of people around the president and people there'd be a lot of people involved in that secret.
So the whole point
I don't think it'd be possible to keep. Plus, you'd have gay people within the government at the time, a time period when being gay was definitely a no-no in their eyes.
Yeah, they're probably quite about
You're definitely going to not be cool with the idea of your government doing
Remember when
this.
conspiracies were fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Art Bell?
When it's just a virus that's been manufactured in some lab somewhere.
Sure.
And
like coronavirus.
But you're not making AIDS. You're not out to make an autoimmune deficiency syndrome. You're not out to do this.
What did you go out to do? What do you think that their idea was?
I'm definitely not the guy to ask.
Oh no, just
but the
idea.
Your thought the idea is marginalized people have been attacked by the American government for physically and otherwise forever, whether we're talking about natives at the turn of the 19th century, whether we're talking about literally dropping bombs from airplanes on Black Wall Street in Tulsa. Just a second, because I'm making a point here. So this is just another type of warfare. This is biochemical warfare because you just need one person, and there's a reason that all the hotspots started happening around San Francisco and southeastern parts of New York, like the big gay hubs of America. You just need to release it into one bar, and you let it take like this group of people that are generally
big gay hubs,
always around each other,
really populated areas that are going to have more physical people that could be gay there than other places.
Yeah, and there are more more people are getting laid at gay bars than straight bars.
Sure,
in case you didn't put that math together.
No, that's understandable.
Yeah, and it just seems it's very easy to just slip it right in there.
Now, what I lost my point of what I was trying to interject there for the moment, but what you've come back on the backside with, I don't have a problem with that. Like I said, once again, you talk about really populated areas that are going to have more people there than other places. Yeah. Sure.
That's where you release the virus.
That's obviously going to be, well, first off, New York City is going to interact with most things. Because they're a port city. They have boats that are coming in there. They have a lot of travel that comes through New York City. It's extremely populated like Los Angeles. Same idea for Los Angeles. The chances of the corona or the COVID getting there or AIDS or whatever faster than other places, very highly unlikely. You just have physically more people moving around and transmitting with each other.
Fair enough.
That's all there is to it.
Fair enough. But when the government doesn't step in to do anything until, like, quote-unquote heterosexual people start getting affected by it.
But I think
that's a little bit more water in my case.
Maybe, except for the fact that it's never really ever jumped over into the mainstream like everybody talked about it was going to. It was maintained heavily within the gay community during the 80s and the 90s.
No.
It hadn't jumped into the mainstream.
No,
much.
I'm sorry. That's not correct. The media would have you.
Don't get me wrong.
The media would have you believe that it's some kind of gay disease and that it was stuck there. But no. Straight women were banging bi guys and vice versa. It was well bled into it.
Well, you don't let me finish. You took that out of context for a second. What I was saying is it never jumped into the mainstream of transmission the way COVID did, ever. AIDS never did that. It stayed mainly in the gay community. It stayed mainly in the over here with the smaller niche community over here. These are smaller
the reporting on it stayed in the niche communities.
But there were people, don't get me wrong, there were people within mainstream life that had AIDS.
But you didn't tell anybody about it because then you were the F word.
My point being, I don't think it was this idea of the straight person finally caught on, so now it's a thing that we care about. I think it's one of those things that they never found a cure ever. There literally still is no cure. They've never found a cure. It didn't matter if it was in 1981. It didn't matter if it was in 89 or 96 or 2013. It didn't matter what year it was. They've never found a cure. So I don't think that this lack of drive to fix or to attack or whatever was there on behalf of straight white people or straight this or
it was on behalf of gay haters, not straight people
or gay haters. Like I don't think any of that.
Also,
happened.
It did happen. I'm not saying that this is true. This is my favorite conspiracy theory.
Correct. And we got that. No, we're not knocking you for having it. Like we wanted to discuss this because there's merits within your conspiracy theory. Like mine's crazy. It's off the wall.
It's not that hard.
Yours has got some potential. Yours definitely has the potential to have the most realistic truth to it. Like that's why I wanted to discuss it.
Homosexual acts have been around for 5,000 years, like recorded 5,000 years, but all of a sudden in the 1970s and 80s, all of a sudden we got this problem.
But wouldn't you think if they were going to make a bioweapon, they would have made an antidote or a cure? They would have had it sitting. Because they wouldn't just let this get wild and go crazy.
Think there's not a cure for AIDS and cancer and all that? So you think there's not a cure and they're just holding it back from us because it's too much money to be lost if you just cure somebody?
They might. I don't know.
You might be speaking above our heads. Right. You might be speaking above our heads.
They do have that pill now, though. If you have.
So
HIV,
I know a lot of HIV positive people, and here's the thing: they're not. I mean, they still have it, but most people who have HIV,
they're fine.
Not full-blown AIDS. They're completely undetectable. Yeah. They still have protected sex, but the chance of like spreading
transmission is so far down today in the AIDS
it's
world.
not a death sentence whatsoever anymore.
All right. Let's move on real quick before we get to the end of this show. I've got some unpopular opinions, Jason. We tried to do this last week with our Spurgeon. We got to one, and then that led to 15 minutes of us just talking about a bunch of other things.
I might have noticed that.
Hey, Drew.
Mark.
Chocolate ice cream is absolutely disgusting.
Disagree. I like it.
You disagree?
It's rich. It's full.
It's flavorful.
Yeah, it's
I love a Rocky Road. Rocky Road's my favorite ice cream. Ice cream.
I don't know. I was ready to go in on chocolate there.
What about you? Favorite ice cream?
I don't know if I have a.
I mean,
I really liked Chubby Hubby a lot.
Rainbow sherbet.
Rainbow sherbet's pretty good.
Rainbow sherbet is an underrated ice cream.
Especially the
It really is underrated.
Now, when I enjoy chocolate ice cream, I don't do toppings. I save that for everything else. But
so you just like straight
chocolate ice cream is meant to just be enjoyed.
Yeah.
You just want it straight up, nothing on it.
Yeah, just give me some hearty scoops.
Okay.
And I'll enjoy the creamy chocolate richness of that ice cream.
Drew, maybe you can answer this one. This person says walking is just as beneficial as running.
That's not true.
I don't think it's true either because I definitely know you get your heart rate up a lot more with running.
That's not true. There's a reason it's called a workout. You put work in and you get work out.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to the mic.
It's definitely beneficial.
Then we can hear you.
I don't know if it's as beneficial.
No, I mean, definitely it's more beneficial than sitting on the couch. But running is 4 to 5 times
more beneficial.
But running can also tear up your knees a lot.
It can tear up your knees. Yeah.
So if you're walking, it might be longevity.
Right.
The only number that matters is the one on the scale.
That's right.
This last one, could divide the world. Okay, young and old.
Let's do it. Let's
Boys
divide
and girls,
the world right now.
Gay and straight. This could divide it all
for the first time ever.
Could divide it all. Brittany Griner is waiting for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, just waiting. She has nothing better to do. Putting a period at the end of a text makes it seem more aggressive.
Yes.
Really?
I disagree.
I think
it's an age thing.
It is.
I think it's an age thing. I think that the young people who grew up with the social medias and the messengers and the texting, the way that they always communicate, we got texting when we get into our 30s, and it's just like, oh, your phone can do this too. So like for them, it's like they live with it. For us, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So we just put a period because that's what a sentence has.
Question marks are cool. Exclamation points are cool.
But if I put a
period's a little jarring.
You really think so?
Wow.
Well,
so if I said,
I don't.
Hey,
I
be at the radio station,
everyone.
Put at the radio station tonight, and I put tonight, period.
I wouldn't think
like separate from the other piece.
I wouldn't really think anything of it. That's not something that will like trigger any anxiety. I know what I'm coming to the radio station for.
But the whole point is the period in front of any text makes it aggressive.
It doesn't make it aggressive. It makes it more serious than it would be without a period.
It does. But see, that's the thing. I'm on the other side. I'm with Jay on that. Like, I don't see the period.
Millennials, we have a period. It's called LOL after every message. That's our period.
What? Okay, you know what, Drew? I love just asking you questions as an old person.
It's called LOL.
What is your this is the last thing we're getting out of here on the show. What is your favorite like little moniker, like the LOLs, the LMFAOs, like those little words, those little acronyms? What's your favorite of all of them throughout the history of you texting and talking to people and stuff like that? What's your favorite one? Is it the LOL?
I definitely use LOL the most.
You think LOL is your favorite?
Yeah, because millennials are such anxious and also at the same time docile creatures. The reason we put the LOL on is to make sure that that there's not a period feel when we send the text message off. You need to know I'm saying this in a lighthearted manner.
Okay, yeah. I understand that. I get it. I think that that's fair. I would be willing to go down that road with you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to get out of here on the show. I would like to, first off, bring my music up. If I can ever get my music to bring up. Why can my music not come up? I don't understand. Here, do we got it? Is it there? Oh, it is the other one. There. I was on the wrong one. Thank you, Drew.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Drew. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to get out of here on the queue. First off, I want to thank Jason Kull.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, sir. I also want to thank our friend Drew Pinson.
Thank you.
Once again, a wonderful time having you here to be a part of us on 105.3 FM at 1280 AM KYRO News Radio, KYRO.com. Every single week, you can listen to us live there, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And that's going to do it for us on this episode of The Q. A little Michael Jackson to take you guys out. Thank you so much. We will see you guys next time on The Q. You